I still remember that day like it was yesterday. The day I walked into the police station as a rookie, full of hope and nerves, thinking I was ready for anything, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened that afternoon. It was supposed to be a routine call, just another suspicious person reported near the government building downtown. Simple, easy. A quick check, maybe a warning, and done. Or so I thought. My name is Officer Lily James, and I've always believed in doing what's right. But that day, everything I believed in was tested in ways I never imagined. We thought we were dealing with a typical troublemaker, someone trying to stir up trouble or hide something shady. I didn't expect it to turn into one of the most confusing, jaw-dropping moments of my entire career. When we approached the man, he seemed calm, too calm, and didn't offer any explanation for why he was there. My partner was quick to assume the worst. The arrest was swift, but then something happened that left every single officer in that station speechless. He pulled out a badge. Not just any badge. One that changed everything. Suddenly the quiet little call that should have been forgotten became the story no one could stop talking about. I still remember the silence that filled the room, the looks on my fellow officers' faces. It was the moment I realized this arrest was just the beginning of something much bigger and far more dangerous than any of us ever expected. It was a quiet afternoon, the kind of slow day that makes you wonder if anything interesting will happen at all. The sun was shining, birds chirping, and the streets around the government building were calm. Then the call came through on the radio, reports of a suspicious man loitering nearby. A few citizens said he was acting strange, pacing back and forth, glancing nervously around like he didn't want to be seen. Some even said he looked out of place, like he didn't belong there. My partner and I grabbed our gear and headed straight to the scene. As we approached, I spotted him almost immediately, a man in a faded black hoodie, the hood pulled low over his face, standing by the corner of the building. His hands were shoved deep into his pockets, and his head was tilted down just enough to avoid eye contact with anyone passing by. There was something about the way he moved, slow, careful, deliberate, that didn't sit right with me. My partner Mike nudged me and whispered, "Looks like a junkie or someone casing the place." But I wasn't so sure. We called out to him, trying to get his attention. The man didn't answer, didn't even flinch. When I finally stepped a little closer, I asked, "Sir, can I see some ID?" He hesitated, then shook his head silently. That's when I felt it. A strange pull inside me. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was something deeper, like a quiet whisper in the back of my mind, telling me I had seen him before. But how, and where? I scanned his face quickly, but the shadow from the hoodie made it hard to tell. His eyes were sharp, alert, yet guarded, like someone who had learned to hide who they really were. He didn't say a word. He didn't try to run. He just stood there, still as a statue. Mike's tone sharpened. "Look, buddy, you can't hang around here like this. Either tell us who you are or come with us." The man finally spoke, his voice low and calm. "I'm not looking for trouble," but even then, I sensed there was more behind those words. A secret he wasn't ready to share. We radioed it and no record, no ID, nothing. Just a man in a hoodie, refusing to cooperate. That's when the unease settled in deeper. This wasn't just some homeless guy or random stranger. There was something about him, something familiar and yet impossible to place. For a moment I caught myself wondering if it was just my imagination, but no. The feeling was real, and it was only the beginning. The air between us and the man was thick with tension. My partner Mike's patience was wearing thin, and I could see the frustration building in his eyes. He was the kind of cop who didn't like being challenged, especially not by someone who refused to play by the rules. "Look, we don't have all day," Mike snapped, stepping closer. "Who are you? What are you doing here? Show me some ID or we're taking you in." The man didn't flinch, his calm was almost unsettling. He simply looked at Mike, then at me, and said nothing. Not a word, not a single explanation. I wanted to say something to tell Mike to ease up, to try and get through to him. But the truth was, I didn't know what to say either. I had this strange feeling, this pull inside me that told me this man wasn't dangerous, at least not in the way we thought, but I couldn't ignore the rules. Mike's voice hardened. "That's it, you're under arrest for loitering and failure to identify yourself. I hesitated, watching the man raise his hands slowly, almost resigned. The way he moved was controlled, deliberate, like he was prepared for this moment. It didn't feel like resistance. It felt planned. As we cuffed him and started walking back to the patrol car, I caught his eyes. There was something behind them, intelligence, pain, and maybe even a warning. In the back seat, the silence stretched until finally he spoke. His voice was quiet, but firm, cutting through the stillness like a knife. "You're making a mistake." I blinked, surprised. "What do you mean?" He didn't answer, only stared ahead, lost in thought. I could feel the weight of his words settle in my chest. Mike shot me a look, clearly annoyed by the man's silence and calm attitude. But I couldn't shake the feeling that those words were more than just a random statement. On the drive back, I kept stealing glances at him through the rearview mirror. There was something about this man that didn't add up, something beneath the surface that neither Mike nor I could see yet, and deep down I knew that this arrest, simple and straightforward as it seemed, was about to unravel everything I thought I knew about my job, my department, and maybe even myself. When we arrived at the station, I expected the usual routine: book him, wait for the paperwork, and move on. But this man wasn't making it easy. He refused to say a single word, no name, no explanation, nothing. I tried again softly this time. "Sir, we just need to know who you are. It'll make things easier for everyone." Still, silence. We ran his prints through the system. No matches, no outstanding warrants. No record at all. That was when the search began. We carefully went through his pockets, looking for anything that might give us a clue. That's when I saw it. Hidden beneath a loose lining inside his jacket was a badge. At first glance, it looked official, but something about it felt different. I pulled it out, shining under the fluorescent lights of the station. It wasn't a local police badge. It wasn't from the state or even the county. This badge had a federal insignia I'd never seen before, an intricate eagle clutching arrows and olive branches, surrounded by stars and a seal that was almost secret. I held it up, my heart pounding. The room went suddenly quiet, every eye turned toward us. One of the senior officers, Captain Daniels, stepped forward. His face went pale the moment he saw the badge. Without a word, he snatched it from my hand, and stormed out of the room, the door slamming behind him. Everyone froze, waiting for what would come next. Mike looked at me, confusion and suspicion mixing on his face. "What the hell is that?" I didn't have an answer. I could only feel the weight of the moment, the feeling that we'd just stepped into something way bigger than a simple arrest, and just like that, the man who had said nothing before became the center of a storm we didn't even know was brewing. The man was quickly taken to a private interrogation room, a place usually reserved for the most serious cases. The mood in the station had shifted completely. What started as a routine call now felt like we'd stepped into a whirlwind. Less than 20 minutes later, the doors burst open again, and a group of stern-looking men in plain clothes walked in. They weren't city cops, they weren't even state agents. These were federal officers, agents I'd only ever seen on TV or heard about in stories. Their faces were hard, focused, and professional, carrying an air of authority that made the room shrink around us. Captain Daniels motioned for me to step outside. "You don't need to be here for this," he said quietly, but there was something in his voice, something tense and urgent, that made me hesitate. I stepped toward the door, but before I left, a strange curiosity held me back. I stood just out of sight, close enough to overhear the hushed conversation inside. One of the federal agents spoke first. "We've been tracking Agent Hale for months, deep undercover. His investigation was into serious corruption inside local law enforcement." My heart skipped a beat. Another voice added, "This station, his own team has been compromised. Some of your officers are involved in illegal activities. It's why he had to disappear and operate in the shadows." I caught my breath. Could it be true? That corruption was happening right here, under our noses. Then came the shock. "He was forced to go dark when his cover was blown," said a third agent. "That's why he couldn't identify himself. Arresting him was a mistake we were hoping to avoid." I leaned in closer, feeling a mix of confusion and disbelief swirling inside me. The man we'd detained. The one I couldn't stop thinking about. He wasn't a criminal at all. He was a federal agent, one of the best, risking everything to expose the dirty secrets festering within our own walls. I wanted to step in, explain what I'd seen, but I stayed silent, afraid of what would happen next. One of the agents said quietly, "We need to secure the station and root out the corruption before it spreads any further." I felt a cold wave wash over me. How could I have been so blind? How had I almost arrested a man fighting to protect everything I believed in? As the federal agents moved in, the station buzzed with nervous whispers and hurried steps. I watched from the hallway, torn between pride and shame. Pride, because the man we'd caught was a hero risking his life. Shame, because I had doubted him. Because I had almost helped arrest him. And somewhere deep inside, I knew my life and my career would never be the same again. That night, after the station had finally quieted down and the flood of activity slowed to a distant hum, I lay awake in my small apartment, staring at the ceiling. The images of the day kept running through my mind: his calm face, the badge no one recognized, the tension in the station, the federal agents moving in like shadows. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything I thought I knew about being a cop was about to change. I rolled onto my side and pulled the thin blanket tighter around me, but sleep wouldn't come. My thoughts drifted to my father, my dad, who had been a cop for over 30 years before he passed away when I was just a teenager. He was a man of quiet strength, someone who believed deeply in justice, but who always carried a heaviness with him I didn't understand at the time. One night, when I was young, he sat me down in the living room and said something I never forgot: "Lily, not every badge shines bright. Some hide in the dark to protect the light." Back then, I thought it was just a way of telling me that police work was tough, that not everyone would see the good we do. But now, those words hit me differently. What if he had known something more? What if he was part of something bigger, something secret, that I had never been told about? I found myself reaching for my phone, scrolling through old messages and photos of him. There was a faded picture of him in uniform, looking serious but proud. I could almost hear his voice reminding me to be brave, to trust my instincts. Could it be that my father had been connected to this very same world? A world hidden beneath the surface of everyday police work, where some officers risked everything to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The thought both scared me and comforted me. I felt closer to him in that moment, like a thread was pulling me toward a truth I wasn't ready for, but needed to find. Tomorrow, everything would be different. I could feel it in my bones. And somehow, I knew this was only the beginning of my own journey, a path my father had walked before me in the shadows. The next morning, I arrived at the station with a knot tightening in my stomach. The air was heavy, different. Something had shifted overnight. I quickly learned why. Several senior officers were suddenly missing. Not just absent, but unaccounted for. No one knew where they were, or when they'd last been seen. Whispers spread fast. Internal Affairs had launched a full investigation, tearing through the department like a storm. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The very place I had sworn to protect was crumbling from within. Mike, my partner, the man who'd pushed so hard to arrest Marcus Hale, was called into a room for questioning. I waited outside, anxiety knotting my chest. I had always thought Mike was solid, dependable. But now, I was beginning to see cracks I'd missed. Later I overheard bits of the interview. Turns out, Mike had been under suspicion for months, suspected of bending rules, covering up small things that at first seemed harmless, but now looked like pieces of a larger puzzle. The man we had arrested, Marcus Hale, was no ordinary stranger. He was a legend in federal circles. A deep-cover agent who had made a career of taking down corrupt departments, rooting out officers who had betrayed their oaths. For years, Marcus had been working undercover to expose the rot inside police stations across the country, and somehow, this time, he'd found his way right into ours. I felt a mix of shock and guilt, shock that corruption had grown so deep here, right under our noses, and guilt, because I had doubted Marcus. I had almost helped lock him up. That day, I watched as one by one, the house of cards started to fall. Officers once respected now under suspicion. Files shredded, evidence pulled from desks. The station buzzed with uneasy whispers and sideways glances. I couldn't help but wonder how many lives were tangled in the mess, how many good cops had been hurt, because a few had chosen the wrong side. And amidst it all, I kept thinking about Marcus. The quiet man in the hoodie, who had walked into our lives and shook everything to its core. Mike avoided my eyes when we crossed paths. I didn't know what he was thinking, but I could see the weight pressing down on him, the kind of weight that changes a person. For me, the day was a painful lesson. Not everyone wears a badge the same way, some use it to protect, others to hide behind. And sometimes, the real heroes come in the most unexpected forms. A few days after everything exploded at the station, I found myself sitting in a quiet, dimly lit room, face to face with Marcus Hale. The man I had once thought was just a suspicious stranger, was now someone I had to listen to carefully. He looked at me with steady eyes and said, "Lily, your instincts were right, you sensed something others missed." His calm confidence was contagious, and for the first time I felt like I wasn't alone in all of this. Then he dropped something unexpected, a choice. You can stay here, wear your uniform, and hope the system changes from within. Or, he said quietly, you can join something bigger, something that fights corruption at its root. I stared at him, heart pounding. It was a lot to take in. The offer felt like a door opening to a new world, one filled with danger but also purpose. I didn't answer right away, how could I? The path ahead was uncertain, risky, and I wasn't sure if I was ready, but deep down, beneath the fear and doubt, I knew something had shifted inside me. This wasn't just about a job anymore, it was about choosing who I wanted to be. About standing up for what was right, even if it meant stepping into the unknown, and somehow, I knew that whatever I decided next, my life would never be the same again. Weeks passed, the chaos at the station settled, but for me, nothing felt settled at all. I was caught between the life I knew, and the path Marcus had opened to me, a path I was still trying to understand. One evening, as I sat alone in my apartment, my laptop pinged with a new message. The sender was unknown, the message encrypted, a code only someone in the know could understand. I opened it carefully. The message was simple, ready to finish what your father started. My breath caught. My father, the man I'd thought I'd known completely, had been part of this secret world all along. The same operation Marcus had warned me about, the same fight against corruption that had shaped everything I was now tangled in. For a moment, I sat frozen, heart pounding, memories flooding back in a rush, the late nights, the hushed conversations, the way he never talked about his work. I closed the laptop slowly, a smile creeping across my face. It was as if a missing piece had finally clicked into place. This wasn't just my story, it was my legacy, and whatever lay ahead, I was ready, because this was just the beginning. Did this story shock you like it shocked me? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to support the channel. More unbelievable real-life stories are coming your way.